Hello and welcome to Skeindeer Knits. My name is Ellie and I am a Norwegian knitting and living in London. Was that in the other order? I am not doing this often enough. I keep forgetting things I've done since 2016 at this point. But anyway, welcome to my knitting podcast, knitting talk show, knitting chatter with my co-host, I guess, Embla the Black Miniature Schnauzer, who is almost a year old later this month. Can you believe? Anyway, this is kind of going to be the part 2 of last episode, so I'm going to strongly suggest that you watch that first, because I'm going to be talking a little bit more about my experiences into a type of, I guess, needlepoint embroidery question mark. Still figuring out the lingo there. So for those of you who are new here, the normal format is that I sit and talk about whatever I've been knitting on since last time, whether it's finished, whether it's a design of mine, because I do make knitting designs that you can find on Ravelry. I don't really have any knitting as such today. I do have some knitting content that I'll put at the end of the episode, but I'm going to talk more about this whole stitching journey that I am still on, because I'm still very much just, I don't know, I'm really enjoying it, and that's what I gotta be doing. What is English even? Let's just get into it. But I do, as I said, strongly suggest having watched the last video first, because then I spoke about kind of just the difficulties of translating this vintage pattern that I found on eBay, trying to find out what is the current color system compared to the old, finding out that I needed to convert the old yarn amount to the new, so I needed more skeins than it actually says in this pattern. And for those of you who are watching this later down the line, you will realize that a anchor tapestry wool is no longer available. You probably need to convert that to DMC. So that's been a journey. And then I had to figure out how to get the right sort of canvas, one that isn't too loose or dense. I had to get one that was pretty dense, I gotta say, but I got there in the end, and I made a cushion cover, or one that's going to be sort of roughly in the style of the one behind me here. I haven't really got any sewing skills to speak of, so we only have this for now, but it is finished, properly finished. I just love this so much. This was, as I said in the last episode, a really easy craft to get into. I had such a hard time finding any resources online. There is no videos on this technique, so I'm definitely going to have to provide you guys that. But it was not that hard to find out once I had an illustration of the sort of stitch I was making, a couple of examples around me, and I could watch some videos on Hardanger seam from sort of these Hardanger tablecloth videos, and also some needlepoint videos, just to get a general idea. Even like standard cross stitch videos were super helpful, and this is a lot easier than all the aforementioned things, so then I really just had to start stitching and trust the process, and that is what I've done, and I've really enjoyed it. It's definitely not going to be my last piece. In fact, I'm already on my second, because as you can see here, this is a 3-in-1 pattern, and I was definitely on the right track when I thought, let's just start with the pillow. The next one up I thought wasn't going to be that much bigger, the belt pull, but it is so much bigger. First of all, I got this massive canvas. I've had a hard time finding the exact canvas measurements that the pattern recommends. There seems to be only so many widths and lengths that you can order, so I ordered one that was almost twice as wide as it called for, which meant that I've had to cut down on the sort of selvages on the side, but that does mean I can actually make 2 belt pulls in the long run. So I've just put the other half aside that I just cut across the middle, and so I had just this one very long stiff piece, because they're very stiff in the beginning. I'd kind of forgotten, because this is really softened up after I worked with it, but in the beginning it's like stiff as kind of paper, and it kind of gradually softens as you kind of just working it. And so I got into the habit of rolling it kind of like parchment paper, so the top is rolled down, the bottom's rolled down. I can start working from the center out, and so that's kind of what I've got going here. Like, I'm literally just working from this, and then I roll out the center, and I've stitched on that, and then I've tried to count out all the stitches. I'm really 100% sure that I'm getting this right before I'm starting to fill out the middle, so that I've got the whole set mapped out for me. And so far so good. I haven't suddenly found somewhere in the middle that, oh wow, we need to undo all this stuff because something isn't fitting. It took a gamble. Yeah, it helps that these diagonal stitches, it's kind of hard to get that wrong, but you can definitely get that wrong. But yeah, I I've got this far. This has taken me a very, very long time and I haven't done any other crafting. This is easy to show. It is not going to be arranged this way, but that gives you an idea. So I'm gradually filling out the flowers, which is definitely the most fun part. And I'm also doing the bottom and top because I didn't really enjoy doing that frame for the pillow. So I'm getting that out of the way. So I can then finish off with doing these sides here. I'm having a bit of a hard time with because I have two different dye lots and they're so different. And the more recent one, which I guess is the one that I'm more likely to get more of, is just a little bit more neon than I would like. And I don't have enough of them. So I'm kind of just saving that for last because there's a headache I don't want to think about yet. Because I might be able to get away with using the older dye lot for all these little triangles here. And then maybe the center bits and the little diamond around, I could do the new one. It won't show so much. Or it will just actually look like it's a completely different color because I swear they're that different. I'm going to put a picture in here so you can see, because what are you looking at me for? This animal, I swear. So yeah, it's just so difficult with this type of yarn that I'm using because as I've sort of talked about in the last episode, I can't just reach for yarn in my stash because you need so many different colors. They're so subtly different that even dials are like throwing me off. And it has to be a pretty good high twist yarn that is, in this case, something I would compare to a worsted weight knitting yarn, though they don't use yarn weights in this world as much as far as I know. And yeah, it's just been a bit of a journey to get a hold of all these yarns as Anchor Tapestry Wool has recently been discontinued and all the yarn shops only have so many of each in stock, and it's just kind of stressing me out a little bit. So looking at this now and having been through this and now this in progress, I don't think I'll be doing this. But that is famous last words. We'll see how I feel after the end of the bell pull. I have a lot of yarn left. I don't know why I bought this much because, I mean, I know why, because I had to do these calculations from when this pattern was made and the skeins were 13.5 meters long and now they are 10 meters long. And I'm like, do I need more? So maybe in the case I would have needed one skein in both scenarios, I've actually bought two because I didn't know. So I have a lot of yarn left, so that's like, oh, maybe I should just buy a little bit more so I'll have enough for the tapestry. But yeah, bit of a headache, but I'm just enjoying this so very much, and that's really all that I can say. If you are considering getting into it, I can only encourage you to do so because it's a ball. And if you just find it a little bit daunting to think about getting into this stuff, considering how I've told you about there's just no resources out there, the yarn's being discontinued, the patterns are difficult to get hold of, I am gonna get into needlepoint next. So traditional needlepoint where you do these like kind of diagonal stitches across, and I'm gonna make this because this is a William Morris Strawberry Thief patterned cushion from Bothy Threads, and that's the pattern of Embla's dog bed, and it's the pattern of the recent purchased runner I have in the hallway. Side point, this is just gonna be for the real ones, but I, as you know, moved in here January last year, and having lived there for over 1 year, I have hated the flooring in my hallway. I've hated it. It's ugly. It's just glued on linoleum floor. I don't know what they were trying, because they were trying to like mix and match two types of like fake tile patterns, and it's so ugly. I can't. So I knew one day I was going to rip it out and put a new floor there. But Saturday before last, I looked at it and I was like, I think there's already a decent floor under here. I don't know why, but previously the little gaps I could see I thought was cardboard, and now I realized no, it's the same floor that I have here in the living room and in my bedroom, which was part of the reason I got this flat, because yay, proper flooring. I say proper flooring, I'm not saying I've unveiled some kind of like Victorian floorboards. It's not that fancy. It's the ex-council floor laminate, and I spent the whole Saturday doing my back in, tearing it all up, dissolving glue and scrubbing it off and kind of shoving it off with like a potty knife, so it looked like I had little slugs everywhere, because that's what the glue dissolvent will do to the glue. And there's still some stuff I haven't got off, even though I borrowed my neighbour's floor steamer. It's been a journey, but the floor is there and I'm so happy. It was the cheapest home renovation, if you're not counting the cost to my body, because I swear all the shoving I did with the potty knife to scrape it all off, I was hurting in the palm of my hand for a week straight, and it was super swollen and considerably bigger than my left hand, which I guess it always is because I'm right-handed. But it was so painful. My body was aching, my arms, my hips, my back. It was just all so bad. But it's so worth it. It's so pretty. So anyway, I'm just saying that to say I got a William Morris runner there as well. So that's kind of the theme here. That's basically everything in my fly. It's not like mid-century vintage or Moomin, it's William Morris. So that I think is what I will be doing next. I just really wanted to get to the bell pull so I can get some of the yarn that I have here out of the way. Realizing now I'm gonna have a lot of the yarn still, and I guess I'll just ziplock it away and think about that for future me. But it seems like it's just gonna be kind of unusable because what are the chances I'll be needing exactly that color and exactly that quantity in the future, and I won't be able to add to that quantity. So a problem for future me. Hey, Embla. And with that out of the way, that is actually the only crafting I have to talk to you guys today. But before recording this little snippet of an episode, that's not even 15 minutes long, I rewatched not just one, but 2 episodes that I have recorded and never put up. By the time you're watching this, you will have seen one of them because I'm going to edit that and put that up before I do this. And that's the part 1 to this. And the one before that, which I haven't put up for the time being, I just had this hang up that it just wasn't good enough. I watched it, my memory of it was like, well, the only thing I had to talk about was a stockinette sock and unravel, and then I talked about dogs, and who's gonna want to watch that? And I just like avoided it, recorded a new episode, and I was like, I don't want to deal with it. But then today I rewatched it and it's fine. It's fine, it's perfectly fine. So what I'm going to do with some editing magic is I'm going to put that in here, so you'll be watching that next, because it's fine. But I had some hang-ups about people being angry at me in the comments, because I swear that is the internet we're on right now. It's, as of 2025, it's like people can't deal with the most trivial of disagreements on the internet. I'm not talking real disagreements about human rights and stuff that actually matters. I'm talking about like me talking about what to think about when getting a dog, which I just imagined the comment section and stuff I just didn't want to mentally deal with, and I thought I'm not going to put that episode out there. A knitting episode, mind you. And I just watched it again. It's just so uncontroversial, and people need to be adults, and I need to get over my little fears about the internet. Literally, it's not going to come here to harm me. It's just stuff bored people are saying, and to be fair, in the knitting community, it's pretty nice for the most part. 99% is nice, and there's 1% that keeps like making me not want to put stuff up there, especially as someone who makes crafting content that isn't directly instructional. I get a comment now and then that is basically like, why would you even bother putting this up there? All this hard work that I put in, why would you bother putting that up there if you're not even going to show us how you did it? And it's like, welcome to a whole corner of crafting YouTube where people just show you stuff to inspire you and keep you accompanying in your own crafting, rather than sharing stuff that we are not allowed to share because they're not our patterns. I wanted to make so many like dedicated videos about specific projects that I'm working on, but after making the like little baby vintage dress video and getting so many comments like, well, you didn't even show us how you did it. It's like, it's not my pattern. I just scrapped a lot of those videos, and I even have like 2 complete videos that I never made it out there because I was like, I don't feel comfortable doing that now. So it's such a shame because it's such a big part of crafting and creative spaces on YouTube. Where people just like, I have sewn this thing, and they just show you that they sewn the thing without actually instructing you. And I think those are the best videos, because I don't want to sit and watch tutorials all day. I want to sit and be inspired. And if I'm looking for a tutorial, that's a whole different thing. That's like honestly something I'd be better off getting from, was it Craftsy everyone's on? All those, I've never actually used them. But some people are really generous in putting them up on YouTube for free as well. But that's like a different thing. And I feel like I wasn't going to go on this rant, but I guess here we are. I just kind of want to give a shout out to everyone who makes videos that are just here to inspire you and share our own crafting journey without necessarily being a spoon feeding how to do this stuff video. I think there's a place for that, and I get frustrated getting comments from people who don't understand that that's worthwhile content and being mad at me that they didn't get a tutorial in the end, when I've never said that this is a tutorial. If it's a tutorial, I'm going to call it that. But so completely lost my train of thought there. Here's Embla. She's adorable. So if you want to stay with me for this video, I'm just going to put the old episode from February in here. You get to enjoy it in April instead, if it's not made by the time I put this up. I really hope it's not. And I will get back to you at the end of the video. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to Skeindeer Knits. My name is Ellie and I am a Norwegian living and knitting in London. You can find me pretty much everywhere as Skeindeer. I have a Ravelry pattern shop where I have, well, knitting patterns, old school Scandi style and modern stuff and just vintage retro inspired. I do a lot of different things, but my main thing is color work. So yeah, you can go check out my designs over there. I spoke a little bit last time about kind of my feelings around my presence on Instagram, where I've been active since, I don't even remember when, 2012 as a private person, 2016 as like a public knitting whatever. So that was a soft transition there, but I am currently thinking about, you know, how I don't like Instagram and how a lot of us feel the same way, and I'm currently on Blue Sky as Skeindeer, and I'm looking forward to Blue Sky releasing flashes as an Instagram option. I rudely also forgot to introduce my co-host, Embla, the Black Miniature Schnauzer. More on her towards the end of the episode, because I don't have a lot of knitting to talk about in this episode. So if you like to come and watch here to see what I have been knitting since last time, spoiler, it's been a pair of stockinette socks and that's it. But I am trying to record more frequently than I used to. I have a lot to talk about nonetheless. Not to mention that I've been to Unravel, so we'll talk about that. Yeah, I just have some time to kill and I'm in the mood, okay? And there's a stain on my overalls, which is annoying because these came straight out of the wash and that means I can't wash it off, and that's... Anyway, hello and welcome to new and returning viewers alike. I lost my train of thought. I have been knitting on a pair of stockinette socks, so I'm just going to start off by showing them and then I'm just going to talk about all the other stuff. When I went to Yarndale in the autumn of last year, I picked up 2 skeins of West Yorkshire spinners, which is hilarious because I can get that anywhere. I don't have to go to Yorkshire for that, but they do, I think, some special self-striping colorways for Yarndale and I intend to collect them all. But for now, I have 2 and I'm knitting on one of them. So this is one slightly hollowed out skein. The colorway is Nigel, I think. It's kind of hard to say if these are L's or I because it's kind of striked up. I think it's Nigel. And it's a really, really nice skein. I kind of thought it would come out a little bit kind of like gothy with like dark stripes, red stripes, white stripes. But actually, the way it's kind of coming across has surprised me because it's looking very muted and mellow, and yeah, it's a bit funky there because that's where my heel flap and gusset is, and it's very hard to plan out how the stripes will meet exactly. But yeah, it's got nice pops of green and pink, and then there's some red and blue and white and brown, and it's just, yeah, I'm not fussy about self-striping socks. I just like color on my socks. So the heel is my personal favorite that I don't even know if anyone else does. So if this was something I came up with by mistake. It's a very short heel flap and then the last half of a short row heel, and then I just pick up stitches along the heel flap and decrease as a little gusset. Can't seem to get the camera to focus on that, but you're just gonna have to take my word for it. It's a very, very neat fit. I find sometimes I don't love the classic sort of heel flap and heel turn, but I also find sometimes that the more sort of standard short row heel, first of all, needs more stitches for me, but also it just sort of slides off and gets a little bit, you know, everywhere. So this kind of worked for me. But yeah, when you have picked up stitches of the heel flap, you just kind of resume the stripe pattern, and that's why the stripes do look a little bit off there, because it's just very difficult to end up exactly where you left off. So I don't really mind, to be honest. It would have been nice to have a whole blue stripe there rather than this like partial one, but oh well, what can you do? But now I am doing my very best to match up the second one, and that's really the most exciting thing I have to say about my current knitting shenanigans this week. I've literally not been doing anything else. These were very good to have with me when I was traveling back and forth to Unravel, which will just be the main focus of this episode. I'm almost ready to do the heel flap on this sock as well. So no second sock syndrome here. I'm actually just doing it right away. I think that's the trick. If you're gonna make both socks of a pair, is to do the second one just as soon as you bind off the last one. Just get right into it, don't put it off. At least that seems to have worked well for me. And yeah, I've done a bunch of like West Yorkshire spinner type socks before, so I'm just like measuring according to my last socks. I always bring a pair of socks with me to compare the length when I'm on the go. It's worked out well so far, but it is running the risk of having made one sock pair that's a little bit off in size, and then you just keep copying that and thinking you made something that fits your feet, and then you have a bunch of socks that neither do. I don't think I've done that, but I've heard it happen to people. So So watch out for that one. But yes, that is my knitting for this week. I mean, there was a lot of knitting content in the last episode. I don't know how many jumpers I had knitted. So it stands to reason that we can't do that in every episode. That's oof. But I have been yarn shopping, so there's that. I went to Unravel on Friday. So Unravel runs from Friday to Sunday every February, but also every September. And I spoke a little bit about the September one, well, in September, and wasn't too fussed about it, which is weird because I am very, very, very excited that Unravel is happening twice a year. It's not too far away from London. It's an easy day's journey. I love visiting Farnham, and I think the venue's good. I think it's well organized. I like Unravel. However, there hasn't been a lot of people going to the autumn one. It's a little bit too early in the autumn. It's a bit too close to a lot of other yarn shows in the area. And so there hasn't been a lot of attendees, and now there aren't a lot of vendors, and it's just been feeling a little bit empty. And so I am very happy that I can now make up for that kind of negative report on here by just saying this year's Unravel blew it out of the park. Like, I've always enjoyed the February ones, and I have great fond memories of all the past ones in February as well. And this one is no exception. I just think it was so well organized. There were so many good vendors. It was like being in a candy shop for me, and please know I wanted to buy everything. I actually haven't bought a lot, spoiler, but I would have. I was actually gonna like write out all my favorites from the booklet, which this is probably my only negative point, is that they've changed the booklet to be this like big fold out thing that just makes me feel like a silly tourist when I'm like looking at things and looking for the map, and I'm like, where is that? I miss the old booklet. I'm gonna say that this was very impractical, but I was trying to write out on the map like, oh yeah, I like that one, I want to mention that one and shout out to that one, because I would have bought yarn from that, and I thought it would be easier to just mention all of them. But it's too many. They're all too good. Like, I was going to mention almost everyone in the cellar room, for instance. We can't be doing that. So there's so many. I'm going to go by memory. I think that's easier than being worried about leaving anyone out, and I'm planning it out. So like, yeah, it was really, really nice to see Pearlescence there again. They were so lovely, and they are the best source of Chiago needles in London. Not sponsored, just a fan. That's where I get all my Chiagos. They're my favorite needles. They're my favorite retailer of Chiago needles. You know, these needles. And so yeah, that was really nice. I really enjoyed seeing the crafty bird there, who's a Handar, whose yarn I just like long for every time I'm there, but I also like, I need to stop buying yarn for like undetermined projects. I'm trying not to do that. That's why I haven't bought a lot of yarn today. But please know, if I was gonna buy yarn from a Handar, it would have been from the crafty bird, because the autumnal colors and the swatches in crochet and knitting, it's just really nice. It was really nice to see Yarn Things there. It was really nice to see the Kettle Yarn Company, Little Grey Girl, and the Grey Sheep Company. It just occurred to me I have a lot of dry shampoo in my bangs, and it probably looks like I'm going grey. I am going grey, but not that grey, not yet. So I should really do that takeover again. But oh well, I don't really care. That's the problem. And yeah, so many other favorites. The cellar was just full of people that I know. Third Volt Yarns, obviously I've talked about many times before. Malika. Yeah, no, that was a very good room. John Arbon was there. John Arbon was there, and I swear, like, so I feel like I need to explain this. I keep talking about. John Arbon isn't not a person. Well, John Arbon is a person. Sorry, John Arbon. I was gonna say was a person. John Arbon ran John Arbon Textiles, and so usually when we're talking about John Arbon, we mean John Arbon Textiles. But there is a man, John Arbon, who ran it, but he has retired. He's still alive. So often we say John Arbon for short when we mean John Arbon Textile, not the person John Arbon. So hopefully that is clear. I swear I can't talk. But instead of buying literally everything that they had brought, you know, their knit by numbers that comes in a whole gradient per color, their beautiful Exmoor sock yarn, their Harvest Hues, the yarn Adelic, which I already bought a sweater quantity of at Yarndale. I am talking very fast. I'm getting very excited. I wanted to buy it all. And also, if you're a spinner, they do really good like wool tops. And also they're really nice. They're really nice people. It's just always really good to see the John Arbon crew about at yarn shows. And I haven't seen them at Yarndale for years. I mean, it's a long trip from Devon. And then again, I saw them at Yarndale up in Yorkshire. And again, it's just, their yarn is scrumptious. It's beautiful. It's the focus on using proper wool and the beautiful color range, and I'm thinking a lot about Harvest Hues these days. I knitted a Harvest Hues jumper before in the bohos jumper, which I believe was by Carol Feller. Hope I remember that right. Really pleased with that project, and I wanted a shade cut of all of it, but they were out except for one, which I did get home with me. Thank you so much, and I will be getting my mitts on the other ones because I want to work with this yarn. I keep saying it every time, but like, it's such nice yarn. So, and their shade cards honestly are glorious on their own. Like, look at this. Look at this. Look at these colors. So, and this is their sock yarn that has 60% Exmoor Blueface, 20% Corriedale, 10% Swartblest. Pronunciation. Don't comment on my pronunciation. I'm foreign. 10% nylon. Now, I think a 90% wool, 10% nylon. I would prefer a like 20 to 25% nylon personally, but I understand we want to keep the amount of plastic low, and I do believe they have picked some fairly strong wool blends here. These people know way more about yarn than I do, about wool and fiber than I do, so I trust that this is probably a really cool sock yarn if you've been looking for sock yarn to do colorwork socks in, and it kind of like I do, just kind of going along with the superwash stuff, and it's all right. And this is technically superwash. It doesn't feel like it. I would never have guessed, but it is. And I don't get how it just doesn't feel like it at all. It feels like non-superwash wool. This is a really great sock yarn for colorwork socks, and very happy to have shade card for that. Because normally my little brain just thinks I need to go and buy every skein and then plan out some project or design, and then that's just a love yarn for me to have. And I guess I want to take some time to kind of talk about my change in how I look at stashing. I've talked a little bit about this before, but a lot of this is just kind of also about my, I guess, self-imposed personal austerity since putting the vast majority of my savings into this mortgage deposit. So I don't really have quite the budget to be hoarding yarn the way I was. But also, as much as I enjoyed living in my own little personal yarn shop during lockdown when we couldn't attend yarn shops and festivals, I often end up feeling a little bit burdened by all the yarn that I have, especially when I bought yarn that are a little bit outside my usual go-to yarns like Fenrir and Usk. I can never have too much Fenrir, Usk, pelt wool, all those like usual Rauma and Hillesvåg yarns that I enjoy. But when I want to try some new yarn, which is what I get the most excited about, and I'm like, I know not to burden myself with just a single skein. I am beyond that stage in my knitting days. I know to buy enough for a accessory, shawl or garment, and usually I will opt for garment. That's kind of what I like to knit, and then I end up with a lot of yarn of something I'm not that familiar with yet, and I end up struggling for a long time to know exactly which garment, which pattern is right for that. And that's a lot of pressure I keep putting on myself every time I get excited about a new yarn. I think there and then, whether I'm in the shop or at the festival, yes, this will infinitely improve my life or whatever, and then I get home and I have yet another sweater quantity and yet another sort of fiber composition or weight or whatever that I don't quite know yet, because you obviously got to try out yarns, watch with it, stuff like that. So coming up with a plan for it, it usually ends up being reserved for knitting other people's patterns. Because again, how do I design with that? I like to design with the stuff that I'm very familiar with, because the alternative is watching and making so I end up burning myself with a lot of yarn, and that's like, oh, burden, boohoo, poor me, she has too much yarn. But like, yeah, I have kind of come a little bit around full circle to just like, yes, there are some yarns I definitely can't have too much of because I'll always be using it. But if I am curious about a new yarn, I can actually kind of just like file it in my head without necessarily buying it. What a concept. And look into it a little bit later. Is that the reason why all the yarn I ended up with is yarn that I'm already well familiar with? Scholars remain divided. Because here's the yarn that I did buy on the first day. Yes, we'll come back to that. I got me some Rauwerk yarn, guys. Oh dear. So these are all the same yarns. So Rauwerk started out with just their undyed DK weight yarns, and I remember buying it when it was brand new and it still came with tags rather than like wraparound labels. So I'm one of the real ones, guys. I was there. And it now comes in a sport weight version as well. The label just calls it a 2-ply, but I would argue it's sport weight. It has 330 meters per 100 gram hank And yeah, so I got these 4 colorways. Now the way I'm thinking of using them is I'm going to be using these 3 together. And now I want you to guess, I want you to see if you know this color combination and if you can judge by the amount I have here, if you think you know what I am going to make with this. I don't know if this is too obvious, if I've been dropping enough hints, but think about the quantity here. I probably have more than I need, at least of 2 of the colors. That is a hint. So yeah, make a little guess as to what this is going to be. And I also got a red skein because I figured I'll probably have plenty left over for this, and it can be used with other yarn, so why not do a red and white combo of some sort? I don't know. We'll see. That will be a different design. I have some ideas anyway. I'm just looking, I don't know. I'm not going to tell you yet, but it's a fun one that will like either be like either really popular or like not at all because it's so weird. Everyone I've been talking to believe in me, but it's So yeah, those were my purchases. I am very, very pleased to just knit more fabric. It's one of my favorite yarns. Should I be trying some new and other yarns to me? Maybe. Once you find what you like I'm the kind of person, like if I go to a restaurant I've never been to before and I pick a dish and I really liked it and I'm going back to that restaurant again, I'm gonna be picking that dish because why fix something that isn't broken? You know, the thing that you like, I'm gonna get that every time. And for someone who never gets bored of having the same thing over and over again until a certain point, I'm good with that. So when it comes to yarn, I can definitely be knitting with this for a very long time and I think I'll be very happy. And definitely. I'm trying to soothe my baby here because her best friend across the backyard are howling and she wants to play with them. Yeah. Do you want to play with Aries and Zeus? Yeah. I know you do. Anyways, I was walking around on Ravel on Friday and a lot of people were like, where's the puppy? And I'm like, I don't think I'm allowed to bring her here. And sorry, this is probably where the yarn talk is over. It's gonna like seamlessly blend into one another. I just want to chat with you guys. And I was like, yeah, I was sure that I'm not allowed to bring dogs. And I then ended up talking to a lot of people who were like, yeah, you are. And then I talked to the people at the entry and behind the desk, and they were all like, yeah, you can bring your dog as long as you are aware that it's gonna be crowded and you obviously take responsibility, blah, blah, blah. Which I do, by the way. Like, I feel like there's always the odd comment like, you bring your dog to that, you brought your dog to that. People are just really just like don't like to see dogs outside. I was like, okay, I know as a dog owner that I am fully responsible for my little pet here. Like if she gets too loud, we gotta go out. The way I put in effort, this has like become like my villain origin story. Ever since I got her, I put in so much daily effort to make sure that she's in no inconvenience to anyone else in terms of anything she does. You know, if she's being vocal, like whatever it is, I put in so much effort out in public and at home. And if someone gets a little bit snarky with me, I put in so much effort. I do so much. And at some point, I just go like in my head, after I've apologized profusely to the person, I just go in my head and I'm like, she's allowed to exist. Like I understand some people don't like dogs, they're afraid of dogs. All of this is like what I have in mind when I'm being super, super considerate all the time. But at some point when people are just angry because they've seen her, I'm just like, she's allowed to be out. She's allowed to exist. Humans aren't the only ones on this planet. So this has become a little bit like, I'm just like. But anyway, I was talking about yarn shows, back to yarn shows. I do always have that in mind when I bring her with me anywhere public, anywhere with a lot of people, that especially if it's an indoor thing, that I'm fully responsible for her and everything that she does. So I pay a lot of attention to her, and that's the kind of the downside of bringing her to things, is this divided attention I need to have all the time, which is not really my forte. But you know, so I'm kind of have one eye on her and one eye on the person I talk to. It looks very strange, but yeah, so I had to go back. But on Sunday, I brought Embla with me and it was so nice. Embla whined a lot on the train on the way down, but as soon as we got into the yarn show, Unravel, I mean, she got cuddles from everyone. She was convinced that this show is about her. So yeah, we spent all day there pretty much just like going from booth to booth, just having her cuddle everyone who's at work there and everyone's visiting. When I bring her to stuff like this, and the reason that I do bring her is that I want her to get used to these sort of things. I think it's very useful to kind of prime her for things as she's young without you know, overwhelming her or scaring her. And I want her to be comfortable in public places, in crowded places, at yarn shows. I want her to be easy to bring around and not be a problem that is restricting me in my day-to-day life, because I live alone with her, so I'm the only one really who can and who will be affected if I can't. So it's always been important to me. So this is her third yarn show, so she's quite seasoned at this point. So that's kind of my thinking behind it. But one thing that's been really, really helpful, which was something that we found out at the Riven Knits Christmas event, was when I was going to show Christine off Brow Work that I had knit a jumper in her yarn for Embla. And she really loves Embla, so I put on that jumper on Embla. And as soon as I did, Embla just went like, okay, I can relax now. And she started sleeping by my feet. And it's up to that point, it was so difficult to get her to relax in this kind of crowded place. That was like magic what this jumper did to her. It really just like calmed her down. And so now I'm using it deliberately when we're traveling on public transport and going to knitting groups or yarn shows or anything. And so when I put the Marias on her for this event, I was going to wear my own design, but I was like, I gotta wear Maria's too. Embla's chosen my wardrobe on this one. So we were wearing matching jumper for the whole event, and we were talked about a lot. I think people will remember this one, and I'm not mad about it. It wasn't planned. I was definitely more dressed to match her than the other way around, but yeah, which kind of makes it more fun, I think. We definitely had a good time. So that was basically our Unravel visit. At the end, I had a really, really lovely dinner with some friends from there, where Embla just sat under the table the whole time. The restaurant was super dog friendly, and it was a really, really nice way to wrap it all up. Actually, I want to mention the friends. Why am I just, you know, I usually keep like private stuff, like whatever. I want to give a big shout out to Hannah-Lisa and Marina Skua, who were in the Maria Skua booth, because she's got really nice yarn. So big shout out. Proper British wool. Yeah, there's not much detail in here, but I can put that on here, so you know where to get really, really nice British wool. Because I'm like, oh, if I was still on like my little mitten roll or whatever, that would be such a good source for yarn. Like, and she does lots of garments, and yeah, it's good stuff. But that wraps up everything I have to say about Unravel, bringing a dog to a yarn show, and how much fun that we had with that. She was so exhausted. Embla was so exhausted on the train on the way back. She normally has a bit of a hard time relaxing on trains. She's not a big fan, but she was wiped out, completely just laid flat out across 2 seats. It was a very empty train. On the way back, it's very cute and very, very happy to be home, I think. But yeah, what I wanted to talk about at the end of this video is something that I thought to mention in response to a couple of comments I have got about Embla. Yes, we're talking more about Embla. Deal with it. She's my life. She's my star, my sun, my moon, my life. She runs my life. A few people have commented that I have probably influenced a bunch of people to get or want to get a miniature schnauzer, which is what Embla is, despite appearances of being an absolute noodle fluff. Okay, you can lay like this. You seem comfortable here. It's okay. That kind of made me think a bit like about the responsibility that I have when I do show her off here, and about dog breeds and a lot of my thoughts and feelings around that, because as someone who has a dog and has most of my life had a dog, I'm going to weigh my words a lot when I'm talking about this, but I want to give some info, some guidance, some helpful things to just, not really answers, because I can't tell you what's right for your life, but if you are someone who is thinking about getting a dog, there's just a couple of things that I wish people thought about when they got a dog. Like, I especially experienced when me and Embla are out and about, we meet other dogs and dog owners, and I often see common pitfalls, things that maybe people didn't think about when they were in the planning stages, and that's something to consider when looking into getting a schnauzer as well, because they're not all great. I love her, but like, so yeah, I want to get a little bit general first, because the main thing that like really irritates me when it comes to dog breeds is people completely, fully, purely thinking appearance. Some people just pick a dog because they think that breed is cute, that breed is pretty, or that breed looks tough, or like whatever the reason is, whatever that draws you to a dog, or maybe you know, whatever the reason is. That's not a very good reason. Appearance is a very bad reason. I know it will weigh in. Like, I think schnauzers are adorable, and that does affect me, but you cannot make that the only factor in choosing a dog breed, because every dog breed comes with pros and cons, and there are some things about some dog breeds that should be a deal breaker to people and isn't, and it bothers me, it is upsetting. And also these things will depend on whether you are adopting or if you're getting a dog from a breeder. I think if you're going to adopt, you don't need to be thinking so much about sort of the ethics of it all, because you are already doing something really ethical. You are adopting a dog that needs some. Sorry about that. That was Amazon. It wasn't even for me. As I was about to say, you're already doing something ethical when you are adopting a dog rather than getting a dog from a breeder. So I don't think you need to be considering so many things about like, is this breed healthy, things like that, because it's already born. It already needs a loving home. So that's the main thing that should factor in. So I'm mostly talking about those who are getting dogs from breeders, and I know that's like a hugely kind of controversial thing depending on where you live in the world, but I am coming from Europe, in this part of Europe, which is the UK and also previously Norway, where strays and kill shelters are super rare, and it's not generally considered unethical to get dogs from breeders because that's how people get dogs. There aren't that many dogs in shelters. There are some, and that depends on the breed, and it's like a whole thing. I'm not really going to get into that, but I wanted to just remind people there are differences in different countries, and this is the one that I happen to be in. So getting a dog from breeder here is not the same as maybe what it is where you live. Maybe not. That was my point. So first thing, like I said, is just don't pick a breed based on appearance alone. Please don't. Just please don't. Think about all the other things. Like, first thing I think you should consider is dog anatomy. Look at the dog, look at his proportions, not size necessarily, but proportions, and like, how far off from a wolf is this? But think about anatomy a lot. After you do that, look it up, research. I'm not saying you should just like judge these things yourself. Best thing to do, obviously, is then to be sure that you are. This is like just the first glance kind of thing. The rest next you want to read. I also want to talk a little bit about size, because I hear a lot of things about like, I'm not gonna get a small dog, I want a big tough dog, and like a proper dog is big, not like the size of a cat. And I hear stuff like this all the time, which is surprising to me. First of all, like, I totally get, no, everyone wants a small dog, that's fine, but how is it that you like dogs but not if they're tiny? Like, do you not like puppies also? Like, it's weird to me. Like, it's just weird, because like, what are you doing? Because like, I like elephants, I really like elephants, but if elephants came in this little size, like, I would be besides myself. So it's really weird to me, and people who like dogs don't like them small, but that's fine. You don't have to like you don't have to like small dogs, you don't have to like big dogs. You can pick the size that you want, because they come in different sizes. However, consider if that's the size you need to be getting, because there's a couple of things that factor in. First of all, the size of your home. I see a lot of dogs around here that I just know there aren't properties around here that are big enough to accommodate a breed that big, and people still have them. And maybe they do, but chances are they're having a massive dog in a tiny apartment. And unless it's like a super snoozy, lazy greyhound or something, that's probably not the right fit. They probably need bigger space to be around in. Sometimes not. It depends. Again, you gotta read into this. It's just like a first impression thinking thing. The main thing that becomes an issue with people who have got big breeds in this area is that they very quickly outgrow their owner and are absolutely adorable and lovely and playful the first 6 months. And by the time they're 6 months old, unless they have got really well trained, which I have a guy next door who has just the most well trained dog I've seen in my entire life. Like, it's so amazing. She's pretty big, and like, he's just got the connection between them is so good. It's so impressive. Whereas I have the same breed over there. There's a mother and daughter that own, and once that dog reached 6 months of age, they've not been able to take that dog on a walk. The dog is constantly just chained to the backyard and is let out through the back gate every now and then to play ball in the morning and in the afternoon. They can't walk their own dog because it's too strong and they haven't trained it enough in time. And having a dog fully trained by 6 months of age is so difficult. Like, I don't have that. And that's the other thing to consider if you're getting a smaller dog. Stop biting me! They start a lot of fights that they can't win. They're not perfect. A lot of the time, it's the big dog owners that get blamed for altercations in the park. And then there's these little rascals that start it. So those of us who get small dog breeds, we better train them as well. We should train them thinking that they are big dogs, because we have the exact same responsibility. Yes, it's easier because we can just pick them up and walk away when things get too, but we should train our dogs as well. We need to be responsible and make sure that our dogs aren't starting situations that they could be injured from. And believe it or not, there are small dogs out there than her as well. So I need to make sure she's not going to be dangerous for that dog. Like we have, it's the tiniest little chihuahua up in the park. She's so small. And she wears little knit jumpers. And I can't. Again, these are just things to consider when it comes to dog size. Don't just have a bias against bigger dogs or smaller dogs or medium. Just think about, you know, can you train them in time for when they're super big and harder to hold back? Are you going to be willing to train a small dog to not start shit? Just have a little bit of an open mind there and just think about what's right for the size of your abode. This is a bit of a rant, but I just love dogs of all sizes, but I had to pick one that suits the very small apartment that I live in and the exercise needs that she has. Like, I know schnauzers from having grown up with them, just how much walking that she needs. There's a lot of dogs that we used to see all summer that we haven't seen since it was winter. And when you get a dog, you've signed up for taking that dog on walks every day, all year round, unless your dog has some kind of medical whatever thingy. There's always exceptions to everything I say here is exceptions. We have committed to exercising these little demons, okay? Like, so if it's cold outside, if it's rainy outside, if I'm really not feeling it, tough luck, because she needs it and she wants it and she doesn't care. She wants outside. Like, she needs the exercise, and not just the exercise, but the mental stimuli of going around, sniffing things, seeing things. That's just a thing that we dog owners sign up for. That's probably why it's better to be more than just one dog owner, because she runs my life at this point. Please understand, you really do have to do it every day. Because it's easy to think like, oh, well, a dog you can leave at home and go out and do things. Like, they can be home alone. Like, yeah, but let's say that you have left the dog at home while you've been at work all day. You have to compensate for that now with a walk. So you can't just come home and be like, oh, I'm tired, I want to relax. Like, no. Now the dog needs exercise. The dog has been relaxing all day. These are things to just know. Like, I feel really bad for a lot of the dogs that I know haven't been getting a lot of stimuli and exercise during the winter half of the year. We have some in there that are just literally behind gates all the time. And I'm just like, that's not part of the deal. But it's none of my business. So I'm just ranting about it on the knitting podcast. And yeah, the last thing I just wanted to mention, just for general dog breed things, that maybe I could have thought about a lot more myself, if I'm being real, and that's grooming. Unless you get a shedding dog that just sheds a lot, chances are your dog is going to need a lot of grooming care. And I thought we'd be going twice a year. We are going every other month, and it's costing us a little bit extra. It's a lot of money, Ambla. And she went on Thursday, and then a couple of days later she was so matted and tangled on her belly that I just had to cut away all the knots, and like we went from paying like quite a bit for her grooming only to like me ruining all of it on the underside and under her arms. Like, there's hardly any, you can see her skin here, like I just botched it. So yeah, that's something to consider. Like, is this a breed that you have to brush every day? The worst thing I see is a dog with like just super matted fur, because that's gonna hurt. Like, that's not good. So anyway, I've now said everything I have to say about like just general dog stuff. Like, this is again stuff that mostly applies if you're getting a dog from a breeder. You want to think about, is it right for this breed to be bred the way it is currently being bred, and read a little bit up about that. You know, can they breathe properly? Can they breed properly? If it's a dog that literally can't give birth without C-section as a breed, don't buy from that. Don't like, you got to remember that dogs also, they cool themselves down through their mouths. So if they can't breathe properly, how are they also going to cool themselves down at the same time if they can't breathe through their nose? They have to use their mouth for that. So how are you going to cool? It's like a whole thing. Again, please read up on that if these are breeds that you're looking into. And if you're thinking about a particular breed, that may not apply to the whole breed. It just may apply to the specifics of what that breeder is breeding. I want to focus a little bit more about schnauzers in the end, because that's really what inspired this little kind of chatty end of the episode talk, because I am very experienced with schnauzers. If we're counting the dogs I grew up with, this is number 8, okay? This is my first dog, but she's number 8. I grew up with Fifi, Doffen, and Tinka, and I'm just going to illustrate that. I'm the Mowgli of schnauzers, okay? They raised me. And then we didn't have dogs for a bit after Fifi passed away in 1999. We lasted a couple of years before we got another dog. I think it was in 2011 or 2012. That was Sandy. I love Sandy. And Sandy, 2 years later, had a daughter, Cassie, so we kept her as well. You have met Cassie many years ago. And then we got Amy, and then we got Donya. And a lot of these reasons why we kept getting dogs that weren't related was because Sandy and Cassie had some hip issues that we never really got to identify, but it was clear that it was caused by having given birth. They improved over time after their birth and they were fine by the end, but like we were like, we can't keep using them to have litters because we used to have like a little puppy, I don't know, business in the family. Yeah, that wasn't right. So we got Amy, and Amy just was never fit to have puppies. So then we had Ronja, and at that point I think my mum was a bit over it, so we had one litter on her and just called it quits. We've had a lot of them, and Ronja died the summer before last. So I'm carrying on the torch from the family legacy of black miniature Schnauzer girls, except Duff, and he was a boy. And there was Balder, he was ours, but we had him with a different family. He was their pet, but we could like stud him if we needed to. And so yeah, having had some experience, and I think they are the best breed ever. Obviously I'm biased, I'm kind of poking fun at it, but these are some stubborn dogs. Please know that you are getting a very smart, but arguably too smart for her own good, loud, mouthy and clingy little gremlin. I love her so much, but like getting a Schnauzer that doesn't bark is just having won the lottery. Like Ronja, the last one we had, just didn't bark, and it was nothing to do with training. It was just one dog that just happened to not be into barking. But she and most of her siblings, as far as I'm aware, are vocal beings, and we're trying to train it out. So yeah, just know that. I love them. But yeah, there is some like health stuff to consider as well. Like every breed will come with some health risks, and I am keeping that as like a distinct thing to, you know, there is health risks that are an inherent part of the breed standard. That's the stuff I'm trying to get you guys to avoid. But in terms of heritable health risks, I think almost all breeds have something like that, and that's different than like congenital defects. Like this is more like they might be at risk of a certain type of disease or cancer or something, and that is something that you can try to avoid. Like for instance, Schnauzers can be at risk of a certain type of eye disease that could get them blind. So you want to make sure if you're getting a Schnauzer that the breeder has tested them for these things. And they should have said that already, but at least you can ask them and make sure what the mom and the dad's been tested for, and maybe also the puppies have been checked for, so that you're not passing that on or giving your money to support, you know, their breeding of dogs that keep having these issues. You really want to avoid that. They're also at risk of things like diabetes, so make sure you're keeping them fit and healthy so they don't develop that. One of the 8 dogs I've had have had diabetes, and it is manageable, but it's not ideal. You have to like put a shot in your dog every time you feed her, so not great. Yeah, they have very sensitive stomachs. Like she had diarrhea on my new kitchen rug yesterday because I fed her chicken for dinner rather than her usual food, so that was on me. But like, it's that sensitive. You change the food one day, it's the runs, okay? You want to make sure, just feed your dog, your Schnauzer, dogs in general to be honest, but like just feed them regular stuff, a healthy balanced diet, not too different from what humans eat, because we've been domesticating them and their gut biome for millennia, okay? No all meat type diets, but also no meat diet, okay? They are omnivores, technically carnivores, but like they need all of the things, because like a friend of mine, she has a whippet. Historically, they've been fed bread and milk. Like, so it's not always what we think that like, oh, these beings with wolves as ancestors, they must have this. No, they need grains and meat, and yeah. So talk to your vet, get some stuff that they recommend is the best thing. Do not listen to stupid Facebook groups. I swear, please don't. The Schnauzer Facebook groups are absolutely cursed. Like there are so many things I'm just like, no. So I'm not going to get into that because I will hear it in the comments. I just can't. I don't have it in me. I have to go out in a bit. We're going to the pub and seeing a friend. So yeah, you want to be just, you know, mindful of them being just their own little beings. And but a lot of the things I'm saying, I'm also like kind of saying to myself, like I should not have fed her chicken for dinner. I should have fed her food and had that chicken for me. But yeah, in terms of training, I was saying they're very smart, but they are like too smart for their own good. Like, let me use an example. Like when I am teaching her recall, I do it when she's run off and I'm like, please come back, Embla, and I'm shouting her name so everyone knows her name at this point. And she comes back. And so what she's learned is, oh, right, run away, come back, treat. Got it. Or I'm trying to get her to not jump up at me and other people when we're out and about. So I say, sit. And I give her a treat when she sits. And so she goes, ah, right, got it. Jump up, sit. So we're still getting muddy trousers and skirts. It's stuff like that. Like they're just so clever. Like they will have technically got what you mean, but they will kind of like, you know, make it into, you gotta laugh. Like I find there must be a reason why when I've seen all these like really good dog training videos on YouTube, they don't include schnauzers somehow. Probably a reason why. They are trainable. They are smart in the best of ways and the worst of ways. I think that wraps up everything I have to say. Like, I think they are an absolutely lovely breed, but I am not like deluded to think that they are the right dog for everyone. They are very active and require a certain amount of exercise that not everyone is able to provide. They are extremely clingy. Have I mentioned how clingy they are? Like, I couldn't go to the bathroom in the beginning without, I still, honestly, having a schnauzer, you have signed up for not going to the bathroom alone indefinitely. That's just the reality of it. But I couldn't shower alone. I couldn't shower at all in the beginning because she would sit outside the tub and cry and scream. These days she's happy coming with me and just sitting on the bathtub, the bath mat until I'm done, which is also a bit weird. But the first couple of times I had to have my friend who lives down the road come here and entertain her here while I was in the shower. They want to be glued to your, I was going to say hip, to your neck actually. Really, she just wants to be up here all the time. And I just got her this new beautiful William Morris bed and she sleeps, so she really likes it. It's a very nice bed and comfy. But as soon as I lay down here, she jumps over here and like rests right here and smooshes my face so that I can't hear what I'm watching because one ear is on the pillow, the other one's covered by dog. She wants to be with me all the time pretty much. So, and that sounds like a good thing, but it's also good to train your dog to like be able to be apart. They will actually be less stressed out for it, even though in the beginning it may not seem that way. I think that's my off the top of my head notes of things to consider if you want to get this bundle of joy. Not this one, this one's mine. But you know what I mean. I do recommend schnauzers, but I just want to make it clear that they may or may not be everyone's sort of right fit. Have I got that across? I don't know. This was like low-key not that planned. But I have to go out now. We are going to the pub, we're going to Blackfriars and hanging out. Yeah. And then we'll see you guys next time and I will have more knitting to show for. Bye bye. And that was the end of the episode. Embla has a lot more hair than last time, as you can see. It has been a while, but yeah, I'm just kind of happy that I got over myself and just put the video out there because why not? I don't know why my standards for my own videos have gotten so high lately. Like, it's just, these knitting podcast videos are always supposed to be quite low entry level for me. Like I don't even know what words I'm using right now. Like, I just wanted them to be always going to be the easiest thing to do, so I'll always do them and not feel like, oh, I don't have the energy to do it good enough today. Like, me just blabbering on is supposed to be good enough. It's not supposed to be this, like, everything has to be perfect for me to just put the camera on. I don't need to have more than one project to talk about to justify doing it, because I think this is supposed to be easy and also fun for people watching, and I hope it is. I hope you are enjoying your crafty stuff that you're working on. You can let me know in the comments below what you are fancying these days. Is it knitting, is it crochet, are you getting into some stitching? I'm definitely not going to stop here, but I'm also going to knit. Obviously, I'm never going to stop knitting. I've been knitting since I was a child. I hope you're all doing well, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.